was an Afghan in Nadi Ali, got settled in, and then we got told about one of the platoon sergeants had been blown up. That was the first injury we had.
British military sniper Mark Harding. After being left paralysed from enemy fire, he defied all the odds to be back on his feet, completing insane challenges for charity. Mark demonstrates to us how a positive attitude and determined mindset can conquer any challenge put in the way. We salute you, Mark, a true hero. Pitch up and we'll take care of the rest.
So we'd like to start just by saying thanks very much for a few things, really. Thanks for obviously your service to the country.
Thank you.
It's not very often you get a chance to say that to people and to meet people that have been in the military and done what you've done, so it's not lost on us, so we just want to say thank you. And then obviously secondly, thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, it's just an honour, thank you. I was just really awesome being here, thank you.
Brilliant. So just to get started, we know you've got a lot to talk about. Can you just tell us about your upbringing and where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Carlisle, and you know, I was brought up by my mum. She's a single parent, and then brought up by my gran. Yeah, so from the age of like dot to about 16, I was just living in Carlisle and just going to school, Newman School in Carlisle, and then that was it really. Just yeah.
What sort of things did your grandparents, your mum instill in you when you were a kid? Was you?
My gran always. I mean, my mum was really harsh with us, you know. But I think that's how it's made me the person I am. And my gran as well. My gran she's literally. You know, she was one of them people. She just had to stare at you, and you knew you'd you messed up. Like, so it was a case of like, you know, I was fortunate to be brought up by two strong women, like, you know, and you always say that, you know, my gran's always, you know, also made me the person I am. So I think it's just about helping people, and I got that from both of them really. So yeah,
fantastic. And what sort of thing did you do when you left school? Were you straight into the military, or did you have other jobs before that?
I was so concerned about just getting a job really when I was at Newman School. I applied for a job at 15, and I really didn't want to be at school. You know, at the time I was stick thin. You know, I used to get bullied, you know, horrendously a lot. You know, so for me, I just wanted to get out of school, get to work, and I got a job at a toy store where the school wouldn't let me leave. You know, to go on this full-time job. So I bombed off all my education, my courses, my exams that I was putting for, and I literally just left as soon as I could. So I was working as a cleaner at a supermarket, and then working at Cars Biscuits, and then eventually working at Tesco's as fruit and veg, you know. And then slowly realised all these guys and these women were like pushing trolleys out without paying for it. So I was like running out after them, bringing them back in. And then there was a job came up for store detective. You know, at that point, I think I would have been about 18. Just borderline turning 19 at that point, and then went to apply for this job. And then they said I was going to be too young for the actual sort of detective job. So that sort of like in a way prompted me to think about what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to be in the supermarket for some life. So when I went home, I sort of like had a sort of like good think about what I wanted to do. And you know, for me, I enjoyed chasing after people in a way. And I thought, well, I wanted to do something worthwhile. And then that's when I thought, well, why not join the army? And then initially I was wanting to join the paras, so I did all the paraprac training. So when I went in to sort of like go to the ATR Glen course for the weekend, one of the recruiters was King's Own Royal Border Regiment. So at that point, he says, well, what are you joining the paras for? He says, join the King's Own. So at that point, I moved over to the King's Own Royal Border Regiment, really. Yeah, just loved it. You know, it was definitely the right decision for me to go and do. You know, and I've never regretted anything I've done with the army, really. So yeah,
never look back.
Yeah.
What sort of support did you get off your family? Were they keen for you to join the military, or did they think it was a bit wanting you to do something else? I think
as parents and grandparents and family, they are initially worried you know, because at the time Ireland was, you know, quite big, you know, and I think it's just a natural worry about the child, you know. So, but I was very sort of headstrong in what I wanted to do. So, and once they knew I wanted to do it, they just sort of like were keen with it, you know, to let it roll with it, really. So yeah,
awesome.
So, what was training like?
Training, it's when I first, I think it was my first sort of like welcome to my training depot was as a civvy walking up. I had all my bags, and then I walked up this like big angry jock, you know, and this corporal like, and he went says, "Oh, yeah," says, just coming to training," and he asked me for my number, and I was like, at that point, I didn't. You know, I was like still with a civvy head on, so I give him a mobile number. You know, you know, so I literally just ripped me to bits and like beasted me all the way to my accommodation, like. So that was my sort of like initiation into joining the army, really. And at that point, it was, it was hard, but it's hard for a reason, really. Yeah. You know, you've got to sort of be able to be put under pressure. And that's what sort of Glen Course was all about, really. So it was hard, but you know, it was, you know, that's what sort of makes you, you know.
Yeah. Is there any particular moments in that training that stand out as being particularly tough, where you thought, I'm not sure if this is for me, or?
Because I kind of knew it was what I wanted to do, and then when I did think about, am I doing the right thing? And I'd look back and think, well, I'd be stacking shelves, and I thought, you know, I sod that, you know. But some of the hardest things down at Glen Course was we had to do sort of like chemical warfare training. So we had like the NBC suits on with the respirators. So as a sort of a bit of encouragement, they'd make you stand at the top of the hill in like Fort Romeo, which is like fully kitted up. With your boots on and all that, and then you'd have to run all the way down to this bottom of this hill, and then run back up until they told you to stop. You know, so your lenses and your respirator be swaying up. You know, your breathing would be all over the place. You know, be like slaver all over the respirator. But you know, it's still in discipline, and you know, and focus on what you need to do. So, like I say, it's just Glen Course was. It was. When I look back, yeah, it's fond memories now, like, but at the time, you know, it's tough for a reason.
Yeah, 100%. And then you trained to be a sniper, is that right?
Yeah.
So what was that training like? Did you have to go through this whole new set of?
Well, at the time, I'd moved from a rifle company into the recce platoon, so and then it was a case of like they needed people to go on the snipers course, so I volunteered to go on that. And the training, we lived in woodblocks when we were down in Brecon, so you had to do like navigation day and night. Shooting's a massive part of part of the course, you know, learning your windage and all that sort of malarkey for you hitting on the target. Judging distance, so you'd be like measuring like fence posts, shapes from distances, so you know how tall they are, so that then equate to, you know, taking the shot. Cam concealment, you know, doing close target recce's, you know, or recce's of the areas, you know, where you need to be. And then literally a big part of it was literally taking the shot. So you'd have to like fire 2 shots while, say if you fired your first shot, and then you'd have to stay still, and then you'd have people out, sort of like, as they're called walkers, and then you'd have like your instructors at a distance with binoculars trying to find you, and then the walkers would literally be guided on. And then if they didn't find you, then you'd take your second shot, and then they do the same, and then you'd have to get out your firing position without being seen. You know, and that's you know, so. But I mean, it was a hard course, but I mean, it was there was loads of good banner on it as well. So I mean, that gets you through loads of stuff like so. Yeah, it's good stuff.
So what are the tests that you do for what you have to pass to become a sniper? Is there a series of tests you've got to do first?
Yeah, well that's it. There's like you'd have to do a stalk getting into the position, so you get given a target area where you have to get in. So the DS would be like at a certain area, at the bottom of a gully or top of a gully, and then literally you have to get into that position and then take your shot and then get out with it without being seen.
Right.
You know? So yeah, but I mean, there's like the lads that like literally. There's a few lads like myself. Lads have been badged, but I mean, there was like I think 3 on the course, 4 on the course, like myself, we didn't get badged because we literally got seen, so we're still sort of sniper trained, but we still do the job as a sniper. So it's a case of, but it's like I say, the good part of that, being a sniper and being in the recce platoon, we also did like sort of covert surveillance. So we did like a cop platoon, brigade surveillance over in Iraq. So observation was a big part of that. So that was all that was a part of, really. So it was another key to the sort of like another feather to your hat. As such.
Yeah.
So when you're measuring your ranges, your distances, is that all through the scope?
Yeah, through your scope. Yeah. So they've got like a mil dot system. So you literally work out literally with the mil dot, and then put that onto your target, and then literally you write that down, and then you go back, and then you work it all out, and then a bit to take it.
What about wind speeds? How do you get those?
Well, we didn't have that at the time, but literally we had a thing called coming in. It was called a Kestrel, so like measure your wind speed and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, but literally, it was the old way when we were in. It was like literally, watching the flags, or literally you'd work that out. So that would have all taken on your range day as such.
What sort of distances do you train at?
So we'd work all the way back from like 200 metres, getting your rifle sorted, and then working back to maybe 900 metres, because I had the L96 that was like you'd get like a shell shot from like 900 metres, and then anything further back would be more like classed as harassing fire. So but they brought in the 338. So I mean, I think lads were moving back to like 1600 metres. So. So that's like a football field, if you imagine it. So yeah, but it's some of the lads I've served with, and they're awesome at the job, Yeah. So yeah.
So just moving into you finish your training, you've qualified as a sniper. What tours did you go on then after that?
So in 16 years that I've done Bosnia twice, Kosovo, Northern Ireland, Iraq twice, and Afghanistan.
Wow.
So yeah, feel sort of like very fortunate to like serve with a lot of really good lads. It's it's been an operation since, unfortunately some of the lads haven't come back, but that's I think why I do my charity work, really, to sort of like to help and support the families, So yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking this question, what sort of a toll does that take on you? Because it must be a hard thing to see and do when you're friends with someone, you've trained with them, you've been on tour with them for a while, and then you lose that person. It must take a toll. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, massively. Yeah, there's. I think. From my aspect, when I got told about my 2 friends that were killed in Afghan, a lot of it, there's a lot of guilt. Feeling like you should have been there. You should have done this. Or if I'd done this, I wouldn't have been injured. And then, but it's a case of like. I think you need to be sort of like kind to yourself in a way, and realise that you can't be everywhere and do everything. And now, like I say, when I was saying I'm touching my charity work, that's why I do my charity work. To the extent I do it is because, in a way, the charities that I've helped and supported in the past, like the Army Benevolent Fund, Scottish Little Soldiers, the Walking with the Wounded, they support on a bigger scale. So in a way, I am helping on a bigger scale, but through the charity work. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. And we'll definitely go back to your charity work towards the end, because it's amazing what you've done and the amount you've raised. But just stick on the sort of support the Army give you, because obviously when you go through that sort of thing with your friends and losing friends, do they offer you good support afterwards in terms of like mental health support, or if you needed it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't fault the Army the way I've been looked after, because like at that time I was at Headley Court, so I hadn't been home for about 6 months at that point, and due to my injuries, and at that point the Army kicked in, the Army Benevolent Fund kicked in, where they started to convert my house. So I've got like a downstairs bedroom with a wet room. They converted all like the garage, relocated the garage and the drive. So I've got a big double garage. They've widened all the doors. There's ramps, on the house and all that sort of stuff. So I've been really looked after by the Army. So I can't really fault, the Army. But I think it's just a case of like, I think the army in a way, the more focused on the soldiers in a way, but I think what the sort of like, from my experience, they need to start looking at like sort of it's not just the soldier that's going through the life-changing injury, it's the partners and the kids. So I think, you know, there needs to be a lot more sort of like focus on the whole family unit as such, really, because it's a big, you know, the soldiers go away to do the job, but for us to go away and do our job, it's the backbone, the husbands, the wives and the kids, you know, are supporting the soldiers when they're growing up. So I think that's a big thing that needs to be sort of like emphasised, really. So.
And just because we've touched on it already, can you just talk us through your injury and where you were and how it all came about?
Yeah, so I was in Afghan in Nadi Ali, and we got told we're going up to a platoon base in 41 West. So we literally got to the platoon base, and we got into the platoon base, got settled in, and we literally, I think we've been out on patrol, come back in, and we got platoon commander came up and says, "Oh, can we get him around the fire pit?" So we're around the fire pit, and then we got told about one of the platoon sergeants had been blown up at that point. So everyone was like thinking, shit, you know. And then, because I think that was the first injury we had, we knew we were going out the following morning, so everyone went away to the sort of the bed spaces to sort of like think what was going on and then focus on what we were going to do for the morning. And then it was in the morning. They said that there'd been IED found about a few days beforehand, so the engineers were coming out to sort of like defuse it and, you know, and do it. So they needed people to go out and sort of volunteer to secure it. So we went out to secure it. You know, we had like 3 teams. There was 2 teams at the back, and then I think our team was the furthest one away. So once we got the area secured, I can remember my mate, who was a commander, Chris, he was having dramas with radio, so I went forward to help his radio, saw his radio out, came back. I can remember taking a knee, and then I heard a metal bang. It sort of like came to, and I at that point thought it was the idea had gone off. So straight away I'd ring in my ears. I was against the wall with all my patrol kit on, and at that point I looked down, I was checking to see if my legs were still attached, which they were, and then couldn't figure out why. Sort of like I couldn't sort of like do anything really after that, and then it was like that's when I seen Chris, and Chris had been shot through his leg. The round had broke his femur, ruptured his femoral artery, so he was bleeding out. I was still trying to figure out why I could sort of move in a way at that point. Bill, the Fijian guy that was with me, said, H, I think you've been shot. I looked down, and then the whole left-hand side of my body arm it was all leaking out at that point. So at that point we had one guy, literally, he was running around fixing all 3 of us up. Actually, he's from Barrow, called Smudge Smith. You know, he was just literally sorting Chris out, putting the tourniquet in, and then he was coming back to me, and then, you know, I was helping Bill out. You know, so I think without Smudge, really, I mean, we wouldn't be. So I mean, you know, I think we owe him a debt of gratitude, really, because he's a unsung hero for what he's done that day. So we had the quicker action force come out, put into the vehicles, taken back into the platoon base, and then we had the Chinook come in, landed back at the platoon base, and then literally while we were waiting for it, I was getting some more first aid on the platoon base floor. And the only thing I can really remember from the Chinook was really the extreme heat off the exhaust, getting off that, really. So I got put onto the floor, you know, and then I can remember, you know, looking down at my combats, the whole left-hand side of my body armour, my legs was dark red, and they were cutting off my combats, and then I blacked out. Woke up as we landed in Camp Bastion, and then the pain just went through the roof at that point. All I can remember really from Camp Bastion was literally, it was like the drugs must have like literally kicked in, and it felt like I was floating. And I can remember being sort of wheeled into this room or something, and it had lights above my eyes, and all I could see was these heads, and someone was saying, "Mark, where's it hurt? Where's it hurt?" And it says, "It hurts everywhere, just up the fucking pain." You know, and then I was flew out with extended injuries, and I woke up on the high dependency unit in Selly Oak. So I had a nurse in the bed 24/7, and then it was like a bit bizarre because I could physically feel my body armour, my helmet on my head, you know, and I didn't really know what was going on because I was that doped up on drugs. And then it was just like that's the point when, you know, my wife at the time and my friends had came to see me, and it was just bizarre really because I'd gone literally 6 weeks ago running around fighting my country, and now I was in hospital bed, paralysed from it down, not knowing what was going on, totally disorientated, and it was just one of probably the most daunting things I've probably gone through really, that just sort of to come to terms with how you are, because at that point I didn't know the extent of my injuries, and then when I literally moved off the high dependency unit, I was on the ward for about maybe 3-4 weeks, and then I got airlifted to the Golden Jubilee Spinal Unit up in Middlesbrough. So they deal specifically with spinal cord injuries, and I didn't know that what I had or what was going on with me. So when I landed in Middlesbrough, so like the extraction from Afghan, I had like 5 soldiers carrying me on the stretcher. It was a place with like 3 or 4 nurses taking me into my hospital room. And then it was at that point I had 2 spinal consultants come in and then assess me, and then they came back, you know, within like a few days or whatever, felt like a few weeks, because every day just sort of melted into one there. And they came to the diagnosis as, you know, the C5 and C6 was completely shattered. The majority of my spinal cord was taken, so it says you've come to terms you're not going to walk again. You know, so at that point, you know, I think it would have been a lot easier for someone to finish the job off. I think I was honest, you know. Told my wife at the time to go away and life for herself. Didn't want to be a hindrance to her. And at that point in that week, it was just it was coming to terms of like with the news I had, and then that's when I got told about my 2 friends that had been killed. And I thought, right, I need to get a grip of myself. You know, I thought, right, these fuckers don't know who I am. They don't know what I can do. And it was in a case of like, you know, that's when I thought, well, you know, I need to stop feeling sorry for myself and just get myself back on track. And that's what I did really from then, is just literally come very sort of relentless in my sort of my recovery really. And that's when I told the nurse, I said, right, I want to go to physio. You know, and then I was getting wheeled up, you know, in the morning, the afternoon. Gradually got a bit more movement back, and then when I started to get movement in my arms, I was like wheeling myself around the wards in this wheelchair that was like a tank really, just being, because I had an iPod on, and it was just like, you know, that's how relentless I was with my recovery. And then I got the news about going down to Helicourt. At that point, I think Helicourt was another sort of a milestone really, because I was going back within like the lads that literally had been in the same situations, lads that's been blown up or they've lost legs or limbs or been shot through the head, some of the lads that was down there. And it was a very sort of like determined sort of like place to be with really, because, you know, everyone had that sort of black sense of humour, that if you had a bad day, like my mate Rick, who lost his legs the day before I got shot, you know, I can remember him being sat at the table and he said, oh, he was having a bad day. And I said, what are you about? He says, I'm having a bad day. I said, what the fucking hell, mate? He says, you're going to be saving a fortune. You don't have to buy shoes anymore, socks anymore. All you have to do wear shorts and this and that. And he just laughed and he said, you fucking dickhead. And it's just, that's the black sense of humour, you know, it was down there. And that's what gets you through things. And it's the strong sort of bond between, you know, each other, like the brotherhood really, that gets you through things like that. and it keeps driving you on really. So Helicourt was fundamental really for every soldier that was down there. I mean, so yeah.
It's an amazing story. It's a credit to you for coming through that. And just to touch on that impact, so when you first found out about your injuries and obviously you're feeling down, you mentioned your missus at the time being there for you. What sort of impact did it have on her?
Yeah, well, I mean, when my ex-wife found out, how she found out was a knock at the door. One of the officers was there with another one and said, "Oh, Mark's been injured. We don't know the extent of his injuries, but we know he's been shot in the neck." You know, she worked for the NHS. So she went to the next door neighbours and she was knocking on the door, and then they said that all they could see was someone on the floor rocking back and forward, you know. And I think that's why I'm sort of like touch on like the support for the families, like the husbands and the wives and the kids, because to get told that your partner's been injured, and I think that they're also being put in a stressful situation of the unknown, which is a big element for them. So I think it's a big thing that needs to be sort of like highlighted really in the support for the families.
Yeah. Just to touch on the impact on yourself as well. So it's obviously quite heavy stuff you're saying. Like at the time, you're thinking it'd be easier to finish a job off, and it's a dark mental space to be in. What advice would you give other people that have not even necessarily in the army, but have gone through something really traumatic like that? How do you pick yourself up and go again?
I think you just need to sort of take time off yourself and literally just, you know, as in literally just because it's only when you've taken time out for yourself then you can realise what you can actually do. And I think in that week, you know, some people might need a week, some people might need 2 weeks or 3 months or however to take time out for themselves, just to reevaluate. But for that, you need to literally sort of like just be kind to yourself, you know, because I mean, for me, I knew, you know, being a soldier, I needed the fitness to sort of like, in a way, to keep my mind focused on where and what I wanted to do. So it's just about taking time out of yourself and just literally, I think in a way, when I look back at the way I was, I pushed a lot of people away, but I think in a way that was my coping strategy to sort of like gather my thoughts. But, you know, if people are there for you, don't push them away. Just, you know, just let them know you need some space or breathing space just to get your head around it. And I think that's the most important thing, really.
Yeah. I was going to ask as well, I should touch on that. Some of the other tours you did do. Yeah. Is there any particular tours you went on that really stood out as being tough, and what about it made it so hard?
I think when I look back at the tours, you know, a lot of the tours, I mean, they've all had the hard parts of it, but I think the hardest one was definitely probably Afghan, because I remember when I was there before I was injured, they were moving the platoon bases forward up near Saidabad, which is a big sort of like, I think it was at that point it was a Taliban stronghold really, and then when it was on TV, it was like, in a way, I didn't want to be in my hospital bed really, so by this time I had movement back in my body, so I literally managed to roll myself up in my bed and I was trying to crawl back, you know, because I didn't want to be, you know, I felt guilt really, because I should have been back with my mates, you know, and you know, obviously it made a big clatter, you know, but I think that's you know, was probably the hardest thing really, just accepting how I was, and you know, but I think it's that again, it's one of them things that you've got to go through to sort of like get the growth out, you know, the growth out of yourself, you know.
Yeah, and you've clearly done that, obviously, with some of the trial work you've done and made it work for you. Another thing I've been really interested in, again, I don't mean to be insensitive with the question, it's when going through your like sniper training is one thing, but when you first make contact with the enemy, what's that experience like as a person? Because it's not really a natural thing for people to go through.
It's not. I mean, it's not natural, but that's why you get put through the training is so hard that literally you're literally pushed to your limits on your training, because that's what's going to happen when you come under contact or you come under fire. You know, so it's a case of like, you know, and people say, oh well, you don't react. You just do what you need to do at the time to sort of like get your mates out. It's all about the people to your left and right. You know, and you make sure you look after each other. You know, that's either when we're under fire or if we're downtown. You know, that's the strong bond we've got between each other. So, yeah.
I read about or watched another sniper called Craig Harrison. I don't know if you've come across him, and he explained it as being he felt like he'd done something wrong because he felt he was going to get a tap on the shoulder to say you shouldn't have done that, and he was constantly thinking about it for a week or two until he got over it. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I mean it's that's in a way it. You know, I mean, I've had to write stuff out when I was in Iraq with what with some of the stuff we've done, and when you're writing it down, and you just think, shit, you know, it's in a way, it plays heavy on your head, you know. When I came back from Iraq, and my partner at the time, my wife, she'd like got in touch with a psychologist that did all the training for, I think they assessed the firearms police. So I had to go and speak to her and just about things that had happened, just to get it off me, you know, because it's in a way, it's in your head. You know, and it's like, but them memories never go. They just, in a way, you know, I think they're still there. You know, and I mean, I could be sat somewhere watching something, and then something will just spark something off my head, and it'll be still there. You know, but you know, and that's why I sort of like, I'm sort of like, in a way, I do my charity work because it keeps me that busy. I bounce from one to another, and it keeps the noise down in my head, really. Yeah. So I can like literally focus on, well, you know, I know that, I mean, it's not that I'm not struggling, but the memories are there, but I can focus on, you know, the people that need the support, you know. So anyway, I'm still doing my job as a soldier, but not on the front line. Yeah. Anyway, if that makes sense.
No, that's incredible story, mate. Really powerful. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah.
So you're lying in bed, paralysed, neck down. They told you you'd never walk again. Did you know in yourself that you would walk again? Like, how did you go from being told you're not going to do something, and then that relentless rehabilitation that you talked about, wheeling yourself around? Did you have a feeling inside you that you knew that you would walk again?
For me, I've always been a person that literally is, if I was told I couldn't do something, I'd drag myself over hot coals just to prove them wrong. You know, and you know, I'm very, you can call it stubborn or very focused or driven, you know, but I literally thought, right, you know, and I think that's just about, you know, when I started well, I believed myself what I knew I was going to be able to do, you know, and a big thing for me was literally when I was at Headley Court, even when I was at the Middlesbrough, I used to visualise myself walking up Skiddaw, you know, before I was injured. And that was a big thing for me. So, I mean, I was always late for registration, or even like I was getting my pills at Headley Court. They were asking where I was. I'd be sat in the toilet with my iPod on, closing my eyes closed, just visualising me walking. And you know, you know, it was about just settling like little things. You know what I mean? Like, I can remember in hospital, I couldn't even pick a coffee cup up because my hands were that curled over. And I thought, well, I was having to buzz a nurse because I had like a button next to my head, you know, and it was a case of like I was managing to pick a coffee cup, you know, a simple thing like that. So everything for me was about setting challenges to sort of like get them smashed, and then, you know, once I'd like, I mean, the physios used to say I was so hard on myself because once I'd like learned to either transfer from a wheelchair to a plinth, once I got that set drill of doing that, I wasn't concerned about it because I knew how to do it, and I kept pushing on, and it was just a case of like, that's how I just like sim everything, you know, my life now is everything's a challenge, and it's just about how you approach it. There's a million ways to approach a coffee cup, and that's just the same thing as in life, really. So it's just, you've got to find out the way it works for you.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing strength to be able to pull yourself around and do that and stick with it. Unbelievable. And it's something we can all apply, I suppose, to everything we do.
How long did it take?
In all, it's about 3 years altogether. You know, I was paralysed from it down for about 8 months. You know, so I was you know, in theory, I was a prisoner of my own body for 8 months. You know, but again, it's just like, you know, it's having a strong mind, you know, and it's basically sort of like, I think as well is what I've learned through my injury is like, you know, I was trying to get back to be the person who I was, which is an endless goal, and you know, I'm never going to get there. But the sooner you accept the person who you are, and then that's when you start getting that sort of like growth mindset that you can, right, I can't do it that way, but I can do it this way, you know, and then you can keep pushing yourself, you know. I mean, because a lot of lads, are literally trying to get back to the person who they are, and it's an endless goal, which, you know, it's you aren't sort of like progressing because you're literally stuck in that old mindset of it, you know, being able-bodied, and you know, as soon as you accept your disabilities or your limitations then can be smashed, you know. Like say, I mean, like the last walk I did, you know, the first disabled person has done it within the world in the UK, you know, and it's just a case of like, you know, yeah, don't walk fast, but you know,
amazing, yeah.
If you keep your mind focused on the job, you know, you still get there.
100%.
It's unbelievable. So 3 years back to walking. Can you talk us through when you started or decided to do your fundraising and what you've done to date?
So my fundraising that started like literally. I think my first fundraiser would have been 2011, 12ish maybe, and then that was when the Soldiers Charity were like converting the house, you know, and I thought, right, I need to do anyway. Or now called the Army Benevolent Fund, and they spent about 90 grand, you know, on the house, you know, maybe more to convert it. I thought, right, I need to help them to pay it back, you know, in a way. So I walked up Skiddaw with like some firefighters from the local fire station and friends of me, you know. So when I walked up Skiddaw, one of the reporters literally asked the Soldiers Charity if they could just do the filming literally halfway up because the reporter was knackered, you know, something like with splints on and all that sort of stuff. So I took the sort of summit, sort of like interview halfway up the Skiddaw because the reporter was like blowing, and I that, and then literally when I got up to the top, you know, we're all there. I sort of like sat down having coffee and flask and all that, and I had my dog at the time, so I had a sarnie and give my dog a sarnie, I had a brew. At least I just packed my kit and then just walked back down. They're all sat there having a ging-gang girly, and I was like thinking, right, I've done it now, and just walked back down. So that was my first fundraiser for the Army Benevolent Fund, and then, you know.
That's amazing, though. You visualising yourself walking up Skiddaw and then you did it. Powerful
mind. It's a powerful tool, and it's just like, you know, I think people think it's like, you know, it's all wishy-washy, but, you know, it's a powerful tool. You know, I mean, athletes use it in all the races, and, you know, if you know, professional athletes are using it, you know, I mean, you've got to find and use their tools, but if it works for you, stick it in your toolbox, you know. So, I mean, from there, I've done like abseils for the Soldiers Charity of the big one down at Blackpool. I've abseiled off that about maybe 4 or 5 times. Wow. Done free fall down at Fluteborough with the parachuting centre there. For the Soldiers Charity, and then literally I've done like a sort of like a talk for, it was a music festival in Manchester, so I can remember the instructor, after I'd done the free fall, he said, oh, you might find yourself a bit like you were buzzing later on. So when I got down to this talk in Manchester, I was like, so just like always like wired, like I'd been on something, you know, and it was just the adrenaline from doing the free fall, you know, with the parachute team. So then it was like, you know, I've done like walks, you know, I've done the coast to coast with some friends. That was for the air ambulance. So with the coast to coast in 6 days, 9 hours. I've done when COVID went on. There was loads of like negativity on Facebook, and I just think again it's just, you know, at that point I thought, right, I need to do something. So I think it was about 2 years beforehand, I was supposed to be on the Atlantic Ocean for real with a company called DP World. Sustained an injury on the Indian Ocean with the team. So I had to pull back from that, and then I thought, right, and I was looking at this negative, it was on Facebook, and I thought, right, took my rowing machine out at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was drilling my pergola under the fence, umbrella pergola, and then I called Phil Naylor from the Soldiers Charity and he says, I've got this idea of a fundraiser about running the distance of the Atlantic Ocean. He was, all right. So he says, well, it sounds awesome. He says, when you started, I said, about 4 hours ago. I was like the Bluetooth headphones on. And so I did that for like 16 hours a day for 8 days solid. And then it was a case of like when the Queen had passed away, it was already planned, so that was really for 3 local charities, so CFM Cash for Kids, Walking for the Wounded and the Armed Remnant Fund. So I walked from Cumbria to London as a final tribute for the Queen. So I did that in a month, and then at that point I was chatting to people while sort of it was helping support me behind the scenes. Said I wanted to do this for Scotties, and then that's when we were doing the John O'Groats Land's End really. So at that point, it was the set date was like a week after the King's coronation, so that would be in the 13th of May. So once I got up to John O'Groats, it was just then I had all my kit that was in my day sack, which was probably about half a stone. I had on my back. So what I haven't touched on about my injury, I've got like, so you guys will have like 90% power in your legs. I've got about 8% power in one leg, 10% in the other, with my legs. So I had my splints wearing it for a time, and then I found that they were restricting me, so I took them off. So I set from John O'Groats on the 13th of May, and then literally started walking down to towards Land's End. The initial sort of like plan for it was about 90 days. So at that point, I did the Highlands in a month. So I did like 360 miles in a month, where I was doing about 90 mile a week. And then when I got into Carlisle, I thought I'd go and like sort of like, because I knew I was meeting veterans from the regiment, and they were going to be walking me in, and I bought a TV there. I thought I'd like go and have a McDonald's breakfast as such, and then I had a brekkie and all that, and then signed a couple like I'm now, you guys, and they were asking about Scotties, and I was telling them about the charity and all this sort of stuff, and I had me desk, I come with the flag flying. Didn't notice the van in the disabled bay at that point, and then this van reversed that fast, it ran me over, so it ran me over to about there, so my legs were under the van at that point, and I was like wedged under the back of the van getting pushed back. This couple were shouting, banging in the van at that point, and then it was I went up the A&E to get checked out, and they said just take 4 days off to just rest if I had any dizziness, headaches at that point. And then I think it was on day 3, I was just getting itchy feet again. I thought, right, so this. So I literally got dropped from Carlisle, had a coffee at Costa, and then just cracked on towards Land's End, really. So I got down there on the 25th, 25th of August. I got down there. So I was on the roads for 3 months, literally walking about 1.5 meters away from like trucks or vans, whizzing past me, which, it was at that point, it was really good because like, the heat was red hot, so in effect it was like, as dangerous as it was like,
Cool.
the cool was the wind coming off them was good. So, but yeah, so we got down there to Land's End, which was awesome. My old CO, Mike Griffiths, and his partner came down, walked down with me, and then my ex-girlfriend, she was there with me, and then it was a case of like when we got down to Land's End. there was the Royal Navy there, and one of the Royal Marine Commandos were there, and so like to welcome me and all that sort of stuff. And we had, I think it was this morning, getting interviewed this morning with Andy Peters and that Rochelle Hume, and then the Royal Marine Commando Sergeant Major come up and says, Mark, it might happen, but it might happen. I says, what are you about? He says, we've got a helicopter to flyby. I went, fuck off. And I was thinking, and then all of a sudden there was this Merlin just there hovering, and I was looking up and I thought, what the fuck is going on here? Like, they're all waving, and I was in this thing, and I was just thinking, what? And then I could hear them like on the radio, on the microphone, that the interview was coming on. And then the Merlin spun round and it banked off, it's like do a wave sort of thing. And I was like thinking, I was just like nuts. I thought, what's going on? And then Andy Peters was there talking away to me, and I was just thinking, man, just literally was like, so, yeah. But that again, I mean, that it's just the work that Scottish does for the kids, is it's awesome. Like so I think they'll be announcing the final figure, which will be really helping the kids massively. Like
unreal. So I've got a few questions based on all that. So you've got through a lot there. So the first one is, what sort of planning goes into that sort of stuff? Because if you start with a row, it sounds like you didn't plan, you just cracked on, and then obviously John O'Groats must be a lot of planning goes into that.
Yeah, I mean, that took like a year beforehand, but with the Atlantic Row, it was just like literally, I think that was just all worked out after a few gins in the kitchen and the night beforehand. But like I say, I mean, with the Soldier Charity, they've been the Army Benevolent Fund, they've been so supportive. But like I say, I mean, I've had people in the background helping me and supporting me with the John O'Groats Land's End. I've had Boots, one of the managers, Melanie Cullen, she's supported me, and she said any foot care or any sort of like hydration stuff, that they'd support me that way. So that's been awesome. But it's just all thanks to the people behind the scenes, really. It's just you can do it, really, and just and I think it's in a way knowing what you can do and sort of like just being truthful for yourself and just keep pushing on, really. So yeah.
So you walked from John O'Groats to Land's End. You got to Carlisle, got run over, had a Costa coffee, and cracked onto Land's. It's one of the best things I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Because it was just like, and I just thought, well, I can't, I think in a way, being knocked over, in a way, I said, before, but I mean, when you think about what the kids are going through or the parents are going through, in a way, the pain that I was getting in my legs, it was nothing really. So in a way, it was like, it put things into perspective, what I was doing it for, and I just thought, it was just, it was a great honour really to do it for them, so it was just, it was awesome really. So it was just, really was, yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us a bit more about Scotty's End, is it called, the charity, and what they're about, what they do?
So Scotty's Little Soldiers, so what they do is they look after bereaved kids that have lost their parents, be it by any other means, operations, or if they've been killed in a car crash, or any other way. So Scotty support them from the day they've been bereaved all the way up to 25. So they do that through 4 programs. So there's the Smiles program, which they'll send them surprise presents, Christmas presents, to give them the smiles back in a way. And then they do sort of like counselling, and then they do more in-depth counselling with the parents left behind with the kids. And then they've got a program called Springboard, which helps them get into a career path that they want to go into, and gets them into education. So it's an awesome charity. So they're supporting from like the day they've been bereaved, whatever age is, all the way up to 25.
Brilliant.
So it's such a unique military charity that does amazing work. And again, it's supported by the Army Benevolent Fund, who's given them a big grant. So it's just that's why I support the military charities that are linked to the Army Benevolent Fund, because the work that they do you know, all three charities, you know, it's just an amazing thing, and the support the people that are left behind, as well as the guys that are injured. So it's just yeah.
That's amazing. And what about the Army Benevolent Fund as well? Sorry, what sort of support do they offer?
So they support everyone from like I think the youngest person that they supported was like an infant that was literally born, you know, 8 months, that needed a special operation. So, and then to the extreme of like people that's been injured in, you know, sort of like the Second World War, you know, they support them all the way through there. But also people that's like falling hard times, they'll help them that way. So the Army Benevolent Fund, it's just it's an awesome charity, you know, and I've always called it like the grandfather of the military charities, because they've been there for that long, and in a way they are like a grandfather. They support people and they don't want any recognition in a way. They just, you know, do it quietly in a way. So the work that they do is just it's fundamental really for every sort of veteran that's out there.
Yeah, amazing. So, do you have anything else planned that you're going to do in terms of challenges to help them?
So I'm taking a while off to recover, but I've got like there's the Bataan Death March, so that's over in Burma. So there's going to be a small team put together, and that's going to be for the Army Benevolent Fund. So the back in the day, when I think it's the 80th anniversary for D-Day this year, and then next year is the 80th anniversary of the Bataan Death March. So the march, something like 32,000 British soldiers, you know, or servicemen and women, and they didn't feed them any water, no food, and they marched them, you know, up and down these hills for about 180 miles in the extreme heat. If they refused to march, they just bayoneted them or chopped their heads off, and then the rear vehicle would drive over them, and they were just left. So we'll be doing that. There'll be like a small team doing that with a guide. So just to highlight that really. So I mean, we've obviously when that Points of Light award down at Downing Street, when I met up with Johnny Mercer, who gave me that award, I forwarded it on to Downing Street. So hopefully they'll be sort of hosting the launch down there. You know, because I think it's important to remember that the guys, it's gone out, you know, in 80 years ago, you know, to do the job, you know, and unfortunately, you know, they're not here. So, you know, we're doing this is to honour them, and just like, you know, we're doing a small service over there for them, and hopefully raising money for the Soldiers Charity, you know, which will, you know, help with the veterans as well, you know. So yeah,
that'd be fun. That sounds amazing, doesn't it? We'd love to sort of when we release this video, we'll put out a link to your GoFundMe page or whatever you have, and obviously try and raise a bit more money. Yeah. I'm sure people listening to this story will be more than willing to get behind it, because it's amazing what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, I'll forward you over the PDF document, so everything's in there about it. But yeah, so it'd be awesome. Like,
fantastic. And just going back to your military days, and when you look back now, do you miss it, and do you think it was worth it, or do you wish you'd done something else?
I've never regretted anything I've done, you know, and I do miss, you know, being in the forces, you know. But at the end of the day, there's good memories there, you know. But I think it's important about turning the page over and making a new chapter in your life, you know. And you know, I think it's important not to have any regrets about, you know, anything you've done in the past. Things are done for a reason, you know, and as long as, you know, my mates are at home with the kids and the families, that's what it's all about, you know, and just keep pushing on and just, you know, getting out there and helping people. That's all it is for me, so yeah.
100%. And do you ever think about it on a bigger scale, on a political level, like if we're doing the right thing? Or do you just...
beyond my pay scale, that, mate. It's just, you know, I'm just a soldier, just, you know, and you know, all I'm cared about is, like, you know, the people that sat with, and just, you know, if the families are all right, you know, don't go beyond my pay scale, and just, you know, stay grounded. Yeah. And that's it. I think that's it really. So yeah.
And do you keep in touch with some of your friends and that you serve with still? Or?
Yeah, stay in touch. Yeah, I mean, some of the guys that have been on, you know, I mean, I've forgot to mention one of the walks I did was set from my house. We walked from my house to Penrith on the back roads and then to Carlisle. So we did it over like 3 days, pulling these snow pulks. But the only thing I said to people is that we couldn't drink water, we couldn't have coffee, but we don't have anything to eat for like 3 days while we're walking. We did that for Walking with the Wounded. So I mean, I think we raised about 12 grand doing that. But I mean, some of the people who were on the walk, they came up from the northeast, and you know, when we got into Carlisle, they were literally just crying because they were like so, like, I think at that point that hunger had kicked in, you know, and they were tired, and it was like, but when they finished, they were just amazed with themselves. So it's just, it just shows, you know, the power of the mind, really, and that's all. What is all my fundraising is, it's trying to find out what I can do, and if people come on with it with us, so hopefully they can find out what they can do as well. So yeah,
fantastic. Your mindset's like unbelievable. Do you think that's from your army training, or where have you got that from? You spoke about athletes using.
I think in a way it has come from from the army, and I think since I've been injured, I think in a way it's just been amplified in a way, because I can understand what lads and lasses are going through that, you know, I've served with that have been injured. So and I just think it's in a way it has amplified the way I am, and that's why I go out to sort of help, because I just think, well, you know, and you know, like I used to hate posting stuff on you know, Facebook or whatever, but you know, I look at it now as if it's going to help someone, it's just, you know, that's what it is. It's about, for me, it's helping people, you know, and looking after people to the left and right, and you know, and that's all it is for me, you know.
Well, it's been amazing. It's been amazing speaking to you. We've been desperate to get someone from the military on. And when I first emailed you, I didn't think you'd be up for it, and I couldn't believe that you very quickly said you'd do it. And it's going to help so many people from a motivational perspective, and hopefully, it'll help get behind your fundraising as well. So, thanks very much for sharing your story.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Absolutely amazing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cheers. That's us. Yeah.